Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and today I'm going to be talking about a couple of upcoming read-alongs on my channel. One of Charles Dickens's Bleak House and the other of the series by Anthony Powell, A Dance to the Music of Time. So I'm very, very excited to announce both of these read-alongs. I'm really excited to be hosting them, and I really think I'm going to enjoy rereading both of these works of literature. Both of these read-alongs are going to be starting in the month of March, so in about a month's time, and both of them are going to be quite long read-alongs. But I hope that some of you will certainly be interested in joining in with them, so I thought I would do a quick announcement video and talk a little bit about the structure for both of these read-alongs. And I'm going to start by talking about the most formal of the read-alongs, and that is that one of Bleak House. So, as with my read-along of Our Mutual Friend, which I hosted from May 2016 to November 2017, this read-along of Bleak House is going to be another Dickens-along, another Victorian-style serialised read-along. We will be reading Bleak House over the course of about 18 months in the original serial parts that Bleak House was originally published in. Bleak House was originally published between March 1852 and September 1853, so we will be reading it between March 2018 and September 2019. It's going to be another long one. We'll be reading a few chapters every month, 3 or 4 depending on the month, depending on how many chapters were originally published in that serial part. I found a list of all the original serialised published parts online, and I will put a link on the Goodreads group which will be fully updated. So in March 2018 we'll be reading chapters 1 to 4, in April we'll be reading chapters 5 to 7, in May we'll be reading chapters 8 to 10, and so on and so on. It's all down there in the Goodreads group. I'm really excited to be hosting a read-along of Bleak House. I love Bleak House very much. It's probably my 4th favourite Dickens novel, but it's also one of the ones I find the absolute most interesting. It's very deep, very rich, very fascinating, and I think this will be a really interesting way to read it. Bleak House centres around a law case, Jarndyce and Jarndyce, about this will years ago where no one can quite work out who the money's supposed to go to, and this case has gone on from generation to generation, ruining lives who are living in expectation of coming into this fortune. And as with Our Mutual Friend, where it is about all of the different characters surrounding this fortune, in Bleak House it is about all the different characters surrounding this law case, including a woman called Esther Summerson who narrates half the narrative, and she is taken on as a companion to a woman called Ada Clare, who is one of the wards in Jarndyce, one of the young people expecting to inherit from the case. One of the things I really love about Bleak House is its structure and its form, which I think is going to be something really interesting to talk about as the read-along goes on. Bleak House is a dual narrative book. Half of it is first person from Esther's perspective, and half of it is third person present tense following all the rest of the characters. So it's a very interestingly written book, and quite unconventional in a way for a Victorian novel. Definitely one I love and that I'm really excited to read, and really excited to read it in this way. I made a video at the end of my Our Mutual Friend read-along called Thoughts on Serialised Reading, where I spoke about my thoughts on the serialised reading process and the fact that it was very interesting, but it wasn't always brilliant. Despite that, I have decided to do it again in the same way, partly because I like the authenticity of reading something as the Victorians would have read it, and I think it's interesting, and partly because although there were some drawbacks to reading like that, I also really enjoyed it in many other ways, and I think it would be very interesting to do again with another book, especially one like Bleak House, which I probably know nearly as well as Our Mutual Friend, but I'm slightly less fond of, if that makes sense. It's a book that I really enjoyed studying at university, and I think it's going to be really interesting to look at it analytically. I'm really excited to make the videos every month, and I'm going to try and be a little bit more on time and a bit more reliable than I was in Our Mutual Friend, which I think with a bit of discipline I should be able to do. This is not the copy I'm going to be reading from when I do the read-along. I'm going to buy myself a new copy of Bleak House, a Penguin Classics edition, because I want a copy that I can write in, I can make notes on, and also one with really good notes at the back, which I know Penguin tend to do, but I'm not going to write on this beautiful edition with its very thin pages, and it's no space around the margins, so I will be buying myself a Penguin Classics edition for the read-along. I know I am technically on a book buying ban, but I already own Bleak House. I'm just buying a new copy for a particular purpose, so I'm kind of happy with that. In terms of the Goodreads group, as I said, I will update it with the list of all the chapters, and I'll also update the sort of group discussions. I'm not going to do what I did with Our Mutual Friend, where there are different discussion threads on Goodreads for each serialised part because we didn't really end up using them. I would just put on sort of one main thread for discussions to the point that we are up to in reading at that time, and I'll also put on sort of a general introductions thread so anyone who is new joining for Bleak House who didn't take part in the Our Mutual Friend read along can introduce themselves, etc. And yeah, the Goodreads group will be linked down below. Please do go and join. I'm really excited to be doing this read along, and I think it's going to be really fun. I think especially because of the sort of unique interest Bleak House has to offer, how rich the language is, how interesting the form is, and what a fascinating book it is. I think it's going to be really interesting to read in this way, and I'm really excited for this read along, and hopefully I'll be able to continue that excitement throughout the whole of the book. I love Bleak House a lot. I think this is going to be a really interesting one. A very long read along, I know, but if you'd like to read something as the Victorians would have read it in that serialised style, which I think is certainly a really interesting thing to do, then I would highly recommend joining in this read along if you would like to. As I said, I'll link the Goodreads group down below. Please let me know if you're interested in joining in the next Dickens along, and yeah, I'm very excited, and I think this will be good. And I think maybe now that I'm more used to serialised reading and know what to expect, that might be good as well. So that's that read along. Next read along is a read along of Anthony Powell's series A Dance to the Music of Time. I love this series an awful lot, and I'm very excited to host a read along, although I suspect it might be a little bit less popular than the Bleak House read along, and I probably will do it a bit less formally. But basically, me and Carolyn from Carolyn's Reading Rambles were talking about buddy reading this together for a while, and then I thought, well, if we're going to be reading it anyway, maybe we should open it up and see if anyone else wants to read it with us. So me and Carolyn will both be hosting this read along, and I'll link her channel down below. And I'm very excited to reread this series. I love them very much. A Dance to the Music of Time is a series of 12 books. It is my favourite book series ever, and it is one of my favourite literary works of all time because it is amazing. This series by Anthony Powell was written between the 1950s and the 1970s and is set between the 1920s and the 1970s, and it follows the life of one man called Nick and everyone that he meets in his life. But it's sort of not always about Nick, especially in the later books. It's more about all of the other people he encounters and the way that the world, or the way that Britain changes between the 1920s and the 1970s. It's historically fascinating, very funny. The characters are so rich and complex and wonderful, and it's just a brilliant book series. I read the series when I was 18 and just absolutely fell in love with the characters and the world and everything in them. Imagine Charles Dickens crossed with Evelyn Waugh, and I think you have a good sense of what to expect in the series A Dance to the Music of Time. Anthony Powell is very funny. It's a similar time, especially in the early books, to Evelyn Waugh, and you can really feel a sort of similar influence to the influences that Waugh has. And at the same time, he has a very Dickensian sense of humour, and some of the characters are quite exaggerated in a similar way to Dickens, and that's one of the things I love about A Dance to the Music of Time so much. I also love the fact that each individual book is very short. They're only about 200 pages each. It's such a brilliant series, and one that I'm so excited to reread. This will be my second reading of the series, but it'll be Carolyn's first, and I think it'll be quite interesting to compare our different perspectives on these books. I'm also planning on listening to the audiobooks of these, which I think should be quite interesting. The physical copies I have are in individual parts, and these are the first 3 of the series. So we have number 1, A Question of Upbringing, number 2, A Buyer's Market, and number 3, The Acceptance World. But there are 12 in the series, I just don't have them all with me here in my flat. Often you will not find them in separate editions, you will find them in bind-ups of 3, so the first one will be often called A Dance to the Music of Time Spring and will contain these first 3 books. So what I thought might be nice, as there are 12 books in the series, would be to read them across the space of a year, but rather than run from January to January, as the bind-ups are called Spring, Summer, Autumn, Winter. I thought it might be good to read them in Spring, Summer, Autumn, Winter, at least for people in my hemisphere. Sorry for the rest of you in the rest of the world. But to fit in with that, I thought that I would start the read-along in March, the same time as the Bleak House read-along, but there we go. Like I said, the books are only very short, so reading one a month I think will be perfectly enjoyable. So in March 2018, we'll be reading number 1, A Question of Upbringing. In April, we'll be reading number 2, A Buyer's Market, and in May, we'll be reading number 3, The Acceptance World, and so on until February 2019. Again, there is a Goodreads group for this, which I will link down below, and which has listed all of the different months and all of the different books, and I'm very excited to get to reading all of them. Like I said, I love this series so much, but I've only read them once, and this was like 6-7 years ago. They're such brilliant books, and I can't wait for some of you to enjoy them too. I really think that if you enjoy Dickens and Evelyn Waugh, or either or, that you will definitely like these. I also find Anthony Powell a little bit less problematic than Evelyn Waugh, which is nice. I do like Evelyn Waugh quite a lot, but also sometimes I hate him, but that's a tale for another day. I really love this series, and I'm very excited to do a read-along, especially as I feel that these are a bit underrated and I don't hear them talked about that much on BookTube. What I do suggest is that if you're interested, maybe get your hands on the first one, read along with the first one in March, and then see how you like it. If you don't like it, maybe drop out of the read along, and if you do like it, do please carry on. There won't be any more formal structure than just one a month. I won't say when in the month you should read it or how long you should take over it, just one a month for the next 12 months. There'll be a Goodreads group which I'll link down below, and I'll put in a different discussion for every single book in case people want to discuss it there, and also a kind of introductions thread, and I will do a video review every month on the one that we've just read. Those are the 2 read-alongs that I am planning on hosting from March 2018 onwards until next year. Both of these quite long ones, but I hope really enjoyable ones. So please do let me know if you're interested in partaking in either of these read-alongs. I will link both the Goodreads groups down below. And yes, I'm very excited about rereading both of these wonderful literary works, and I hope that you are excited about joining in and reading them too. Please let me know down in the comments your thoughts on both of these things. And yes, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.